what do you get more? You talked about not getting nervous for things anymore, but what do you get more excited for? Is it the interviews now, or is it the writing?
Hey guys, this is Tempest from Wrestle Talk, and I'm reminding you to support Tom Talks Rubbish.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Fresh, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by Andrew Thompson from Post Wrestling. So, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me on, man. It's great to be here. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So, if we take this back to the beginning, where do you first discover wrestling?
I can't like give you like an exact specific time, but I do remember it goes way back. Talking about like probably 3, 4 years old, maybe like jumping on the couch watching the old Monday Night Raws, WWF Raws, and stuff like that, and just being enthralled by all that stuff that was going on, during the Attitude Era. That a lot of that stuff, to get you in trouble in school, saying some of the stuff that you
Yeah.
that you saw on TV. So yeah, that's probably my first exposure to anything pro wrestling related. And I think the first time I saw WCW was when I went over one of my cousin's house, and I saw I like all I knew was WWE, WWF, and like my first time seeing like Nitro, I was like what is this? And to be honest with you, like I thought it was like kind of like I was very much leaning towards the side of like the WWF, because that's like all I knew and that's all I saw. So I was like very much in favor of that. But then I like slowly started to see like just a little bit of Nitro through those few times when I went over my cousin's house. So that was cool.
It sounds like you were what WWE wants some fans to be today, which is believing that WWE is the only game in town, and everything else was, I can cuss on my podcast, non-existent, so I don't have to cuss. That sounds brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was, man. And not to sort of jump the gun, but like my first like what would so I'm talking about like as far as like actually getting into a product outside of WWE. I would say that my first time actually getting into something like that was TNA wrestling in like '03. So like that was like my first time when I was like, oh, like there's like some other stuff out here, and that's when like you start to hear about certain stuff, but I didn't really get into like deep into independent wrestling and going back and watching some New Japan and stuff like that until I'm gonna say like 2016, 2017. So like it was a long time where for me it was just like all I knew was WWE. I had known about WCW, and I was like very sort of locked in on TNA because of course you start, because like one of my first real like I'll say recollections of like me seeing AJ Styles, like that was like a big, I would say like a big thing, but it was very cool to just see some stuff that was like non of what I was used to seeing, and it was just different, and I was entertained by it. So like it was cool seeing that. That's like a sort of non like not non-consistent, but sort of like my earliest memories of outside of WWE pro wrestling. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm. So with you being strictly a WWE guy till about 2003, correct?
Yeah.
Do you believe that the way WWE handles marketing with not acknowledging other products under Vince McMahon is the way to go? Or do you think they'd have more love from fandoms if they were acknowledging other products?
And you talking about specifically back then, right?
Back then or now, either one.
Oh, well, I mean, now, of course, like, I mean, I would say even past 10 or so years, like, I don't think that's the way to go for the overall landscape of the wrestling business. I do think that it would benefit, it would do the overall business good to facilitate that popularity elsewhere. But at the same time, that's what works for WWE. You know what I'm saying? And like,
yeah,
I don't have no say in that. but I do think that it helps overall to facilitate sort of that the wealth per se or popularity for lack of better terms
I
to
know what you mean.
let everybody know that to let everybody know that there's this broad thing because there are like a lot of people who really think that WWE is like the only thing. Like you talk to somebody that doesn't keep up with pro wrestling, like they'll be like, you mention the word pro wrestling, and the first thing they'll think about is WWE. And like they don't even like aren't even aware that there's like another pro wrestling company that's on that sort of equal grounding or like right there at the top at the tip top with all elite wrestling. So like it is it is an interesting sort of dynamic and sort of the way WWE has gone about presenting themselves over the past 20 or some years. But I think now more so, I think a lot of people are becoming more aware that there's so much more pro wrestling out there than just what they assume would be out there. To those who may not keep up with it as much as we do with those of us who are in that bubble.
Yeah. So you talked about being in that bubble. How much wrestling do you have to consume for your work inside the bubble? And then how much wrestling would you be consuming if you had a 9-to-5 job and weren't inside that bubble?
So the amount of wrestling that I consume, I'm talking about like just even with just news, like I feel like too, it's like you have to be sort of aware of mostly, I want to say everything, but you do kind of got to be aware of everything. You not necessarily you don't have to like watch everything tit for tat, but you do have to know what's going on. You can't just like be oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about stuff going from independent wrestling to Noah to Dragon Gate to all these different type of promotions and stuff like that. Some of stuff in Europe, like I mentioned in Japan, you gotta like even if you aren't able to watch that stuff, you still gotta understand or be or have some type of knowledge of what's going on in these specific organizations or promotions. And it is honestly, but it's that I wouldn't even say it's a lot because I kind of enjoy it. I like having that sort of knowledge and like knowing that I can like speak on certain stuff because like not even if I haven't seen a certain show or a full show, but like I know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not like oblivious to it, and it's easy for me even when I'm writing articles. It's easy for me to like piece certain stuff together or like recall something I read in a certain article about a specific promotion because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I wrote say article about this, and I can like sort of recall that information. So it's really cool to sort of have that like sort of abundance of knowledge about all these different promotions. And like to answer your second question, if I wasn't within a bubble, I honestly think if I wasn't, I would have more time to sit down and watch all of these different shows. But like I had to like pickpocket because I also what I'm saying, I got interests outside of pro wrestling. Like I like keeping up with basketball and football. I like specific shows that I like to watch and stuff like that. So I try to mix that in and not solely contain professional wrestling, especially because I consume so much of it. So I want to like, also keep my other interests, intact as well, and also still pay attention to that stuff. But I think that if I wasn't in a bubble for sure, I would definitely be watching more full length shows instead of just like sometimes I'll like, oh, what's the match that everybody's talking about? Or I go look at a certain match card and I'll be like, okay, let me go watch that match. Or if something appeals to me, I'd be like, okay, let me go check that out.
What have you put in place as someone that has to watch so much pro wrestling? What have you maybe put in place to keep your fandom alive and to avoid burnout?
That's a good question. Be honest with you, I mean, I think more so like I've experienced burnout. I'm gonna say probably like once or twice, and it wasn't even necessarily from consuming pro wrestling. It was like maybe like stretches or days where I had to go and like write about it, and it wasn't even because like writing it was because I was like tired of shit. So
yeah.
like that's more so like what it was about more than like the actual wrestling thing. But like I don't for real like I don't really consider it like something that like can burn me out because I just enjoy it. Like it's fun for me. Like I get like a rush out of covering pro wrestling like in a good way. Like it's cool staying up to date on information and like finding some quotes and stuff like that and like finding key information that other people want to find out and stuff like it's cool doing that. Like I don't really consider getting a burn. Like the only like just to answer your question, like in sort of repeating it a little bit, like the only burnout I've ever felt was more so about like the sort of lack of sleep and then continuously writing and then like getting like maybe like 3 hours of sleep and then going right back to it. And then like that's primarily the sort of burnout that I would describe that I've gotten, but not I don't think ever from the actual pro wrestling part. Like I think we've all had that part in our lives, like when we sort of fell out of it a little bit. Like I think I remember, I want to say back in 2009, 2010, like I really stopped watching. I didn't watch wrestling probably from that whole year, 2 years. And like the thing that got me back into wrestling was when I saw the pipe bomb on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like I saw it like on a YouTube suggestion, and I went to watch, and I was like, "Oh, what's this? What's going on right here?" And that's sort of the thing that sort of hooked me back in. And then I was like in and out a little bit. Then I eventually, got right back into the swing of things and stuff, and that eventually led me to finding out about all these different promotions and all this stuff that's going on outside the U.S. The U.S. pro wrestling and the U.S. mainstream pro wrestling scene and stuff like that. So
you talked about there having burnout with writing and lack of sleep sometimes. So what is something you maybe have put in place to avoid that situation now? Or what is something that you feel like you need to maybe put in place if you haven't already?
I don't even think it's nothing I can do, to be honest with you. Because I mean, like, so like, even if I say, okay, maybe I'll like need like a whatever hour break or something like that. As soon as I take that time away, I'll immediately get that feeling to be like, well, I want to get back to it. Like I can't. It's like I literally can't help myself. So it's like it's not. I don't ever think that I'll like truly get that like burn out. Like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like it's literally I'll step away for like 2 hours, and then like I'll be like, you know what, it's time to get right back to it. Like that's just how like I for lack of a better term, that's like how I'm wired. Like I legit can't help it. It's funny actually.
Is that because you're such a big pro wrestling fan, or because you feel so lucky to be in the position you're in?
I think it's more so just because I like covering pro wrestling. I mean, of course, like the position and I'm in terms of like writing for pro wrestling. I love working for posts. Like that's cool as hell. Like I like the environment. I like John and Way, of course, and all the people within the community, even the people that come in the comment section and commenting on all the articles and stuff like that. That's always cool to see. But yeah, I think it's mostly just because I like covering pro wrestling, man. I like staying up to date with things, and I like contributing to, yeah, well, in terms of the position I'm in, I like contributing to posts and like seeing the site grow and stuff like that. Like that's cool for me, man. I like the feeling of knowing I'm like adding to something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. So how do you get involved in the wrestling media? From an interview I saw with Jeremy Lambert, it felt like Fightful was maybe you're in, or was that after a few things?
Yeah, that was after a few things. I first got started back in January 2017. This was when I had this guy had gave me an opportunity to write like feature articles on his website. It was like ewrestling.news. And I remember the first article I wrote, I still got it saved on my phone, the web link saved on my phone. I never wanted to forget it. I had got it like just in case something ever happened to the site. I had went and got it like this website got like archive stored on the internet, so like it'll never go away. I just wanted to make sure I kept it. And it was I did predictions for the 2017 Royal Rumble. And this was back when I thought that WWE was smart enough to go all the way with Sami Zayn. I thought this was Sami Zayn's year. I thought that was the guy. And lo and behold, that did not happen. But but like that was my first time writing anything about pro wrestling related. And then I started writing news for a website called eWrestling News. I don't know if you heard of that or not. They've been going for a long time. And the guy named Frank, that's sort of who, not sort of, but that's who I credit to sort of let like breaking me in to the wrestling media, because he sort of took a chance on me. And like I didn't have I had zero news writing experience. Like I didn't know, like not didn't know anything, but more so like I just didn't know what the fuck I was doing at all.
Yeah.
Like I was, and the cool thing about it was he let me make mistakes along the way without like badgering me or some or stuff like that. Like he wouldn't like, down talk my writing or nothing like that. He just like, change it, fix it, here's some things, here's like different ways to go, and different types of things like that. So it was always cool to sort of have that support. And I always like, I think I told this on the interview I did with Steven Jensen and Jeremy, like that I was I text Frank like, a couple times a year, you know what I'm saying, just to say what's up and, you know, tell him thank you and stuff, because he was sort of that, not sort of, but he was that sort of in for me to like allow myself to make mistakes on a platform, on his platform, and then eventually continuously get better at it and better at it and better at it. So yeah, I always make sure to shout out Frank whenever I get the chance. They played the biggest role, I would say, in me getting involved in wrestling media. So very, very thankful to him.
That's very cool to hear, man. So if we cover Frank a bit more, where do you think you'd be if Frank never took a chance on you? And how important, also, this is sort of a two-part question, how important do you think it was for you to make them mistakes and for him not to badger you and correct you?
Man, let me just further elaborate in that last part. He definitely did correct me. I don't want to make it seem like he was just like letting me like fuck up on his site, but it was more so of like that encouraging advice. Like instead of like
that's what I meant. I don't know if I phrased that very well. I do apologize.
No, it's all good, man. I know what you mean. Like I got what you. I just want to clarify that last part. Like it wasn't like he was just like, hey man, go out there and just mess up on this thing I built and it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, it was more so like encouraging stuff. But like if it wasn't for Frank like allowing me in, I don't think I would be. I really don't think I'd be writing right now. I really don't, because I remember I knew, like, even back then, back in 2017, because I remember exactly where I was when I first met. Not when I first met, when I first applied for that role at EWN. I was sitting in class when I was in community college, and I remember I sent an email, and he told me, he was like, "Hey, I give you like a trial run on the site," and I remember I was just looking at the site, like seeing like what I could do, like finding like different news pieces, and like even some I had to learn getting better at was the transcription stuff, because like I would do like what I see some people do now, not some people, but some sites do now, like where they'll like take the quote without actually adding the transcription to it. And I had to like, it was like a learning process. I had to learn that was like wrong. You can't just take people's like work like that, because that stuff is like transcription work is something that like most tasks and stuff that you can do. So like you can't just take people's stuff like that without actually adding credit and actually learning how to properly credit, not just saying, hey, HT to this site and just leaving it like that. About like, you got to make sure you link the article back like directly to the article, like, which is the correct way, instead of just linking to the site's webpage, link to that person's actual work so they can get the proper credit for it. And like it took me a while to like actually get that, but I knew that I needed those reps if I was ever gonna get any better at it. And yeah, if Frank didn't take that opportunity with me and didn't sort of allow me to make those mistakes and sort of pivot me in the right direction, then yeah, I don't really think I would be in wrestling media right now. I really don't.
That's really cool to hear again. But if we go back to when you were working for Frank, when it comes to, you said the biggest mistake you made was not crediting people. Mm-hmm. If you could go back and you had like a DeLorean and tell yourself to do things differently and maybe credit people and etc., do you think you would, or do you think you're happy you made those mistakes because it shows that you've grown, for lack of a better word?
Hindsight, of course, you would always go back and do that stuff. Like, but I think it did allow for me to grow, because like you need to know when you're wrong in those experience, like in those certain types of, when all type of situations, life situations, you need to know when you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? And like, cause like, especially now, like doing what I do, and like when I see like quotes that I use that won't get credited, I get how like irritating that can be, like to have like your quotes like not properly credited and stuff like that. So I can only imagine how other people felt when I did that. You know what I'm saying? So like, you try to have some type of understanding right there. So it's cool to see. Like, of course, in the hindsight, like of course I would go back and be like, make sure properly, credit everybody and stuff like that. Like, I'm talking about like exactly as it happened without having to be corrected for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just do it as it came. But I also think that, making those mistakes really helped in the long run, and it helped me progress as a writer.
What do you think the biggest mistakes the current crop of writers that are coming up make currently? And then what is some things you feel like they maybe do not better than you when you first started, but you know what I'm trying to say. I just can't think of the word.
Like, I mean, I don't think it's like no like set things. I think that everybody has their own method about like news writing that they go. So like I feel like everybody has their own method, has their own like learning kits for lack of better terms, and people
Yeah.
go about that how they choose to. So like, I think that's more so like an individual thing. And I think that today's I'm saying today's writers, like I'm not today's writers, like I'm today's writers, but like but like I think that the cool thing is like there's a lot more sources. Like I think more news sources are available and out there to people, so they can sort of find more aggregation stuff to get from it. It's like a more diverse group of like just different news sources that people can rely on and people can go to. And I think it's a lot cooler to see a lot of news writers find stuff that nobody else can find. I think that's like the coolest thing to see from. I was about to say today's news writers again. Like you got that terminology stuck in my head, but yeah,
Sorry.
it's cool, man, to see like just an abundance of different news writers and all these different sites, man. The coolest thing I would say, honestly, is to see it's cool seeing more women involved in news writing.
Yeah,
Like that,
I agree.
that is very cool, bro. Like to see more women just like, and I'm talking about like they have prominent positions at websites. Like I think that's real cool, and very great news writers at that too. So yeah, that's some of the cool things I'm seeing.
What about, and I've got to be careful how I phrase this question, how important do you feel like it is as a person of color to get your voice heard out there in the wrestling sphere and as a wrestling writer?
Man, very, very important.
I hope I phrased that question appropriately, by the way.
You good, man. You good. You definitely did. I think that's a very important thing, and we're seeing that tenfold over the past several years. Like you look at so many people that's doing so much great work out here, like the Public Enemies podcast, the Black Wrestling Guys podcast. You got Grab City.
I was going to say, if you didn't shout those guys out, I'd have been a bit like, wow.
Oh, come on, man. I was going to shout them out. But you got the podcast I do over at Post with myself, Nate Milton, and Chris Ely, the NWA podcast. You got, I'm trying to think of some other ones. I think you got the Wrestling Wind Down podcast. You got Those Wrestling Girls podcast. You got it's so many great podcasts, man, that's hosted by people of color and Black people, man. It's so cool to see like that diverse group of talent, because like it's all like it's like not, I want to say like not like a running joke, but like it's always something that people have said for such a long time, that Black people love pro wrestling. Like we always have and we always will. Like I'm telling you, it's that form of entertainment that I think that is so untapped, that we really haven't like fully gotten into, but you also seeing like so many people like getting involved in the actual space outside of just being like watching it every once in a while. Like you seeing people getting like more actively involved, and I think that's more evident than ever. Than listening like just a few of the podcasts that I mentioned, of the many podcasts I think that's out there that's hosted by Black people. Oh, the Black Wrestling podcast, they do some great stuff as well. Like it's so many. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna name a few like as they like start to pop up in my head as I remember them, man. But it is definitely cool seeing so many Black people like getting their voices out there and doing their thing. And like everybody, the thing that I think is so cool, man, is like everybody doing the Java Tears podcast too. They doing some great stuff.
I feel like this is going to be a thing for us.
Yeah,
you're just going to promote people that pop into your head.
Like it's just cool seeing like the thing that I think is the coolest is that like everybody sort of has their own individual style. Like everybody sort of goes about the way they podcast, the way they present information, the way they do certain things, the way they look at news, the way they give opinions on certain stuff. Everybody has their own individualistic ways of presenting news and going about news and stuff like that. So I think that's probably the coolest thing, right underneath the just an abundance of Black people that love and sort of are in this media space as well. So that's cool, man.
Yeah. So as we move on in your journey, eventually you move over to Fightful, correct?
Yeah, I after eWrestling News, I went to Lords of Pain, which is now WrestlingHeadlines.com, and I was there from August 2017 to I want to say January 2018. Yeah, and then that's when I started with Fightful in February 2018. Yeah.
Okay. So how does that come about? I know you told the story a little bit in your Spotlight interview with Jeremy and Stephen, but if you would be comfortable telling it again, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So after I finished up with Laws of Pain, it was more so of a thing where I was like, cause this is when I was at university at the time when I was doing that. So I was like, I always kept up with pro. Like I was still like actively watching wrestling, and this was that time when I was like, I had like a like not like a great deal of free time, but like I was I was able to sort of, I would say like towards the back end of 2017, early 2018, I was like writing here and there. So like I had more time to sort of catch up on like all these different shows and stuff like that. So like I was always like very just actively keeping up with pro wrestling. And also the thing, it was like I was like I wanted to find I just wanted to see if I could like further expand a little bit. So I remember I had reached out to Sean. I want like this had to be late January 2018 when I reached out to Sean. I sent him a message and I was like, hey, I sent him like a writing samples I had, and he gave me a sort of a test trial at Fightful just to see how I would do and stuff like that. And like one of the things he sort of helped me with was shortening sort of my intros a little bit. Like that was something like because when you're in the moment, I think that a lot of people, when you get so comfortable doing something, you start to think that the way you're doing it is like the right way.
Yeah.
But like when you get like that sort of advice from different people, they sort of help you layer and structure things a little bit differently. So like when he was telling me like try to like show your intros a little bit, and I started like actually looking at doing that, I was like, oh, that is kind of
that makes sense.
That is kind of it's like very easier to just shorten things, and then you can sort of add the thicker things in between and in the end, and everything don't got to be explained like right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? So like that was a cool thing that I learned. But yeah, I started in February 2018, and yeah, we had sort of got the conversations going, and then I think he formally brought me on. I want to say like 2 weeks into February. I want to say, if I remember correctly, I remember my first article
right off the top of his head.
But my first my first article I wrote was a Titus O'Neil article. I still remember it, I think, and it was about like some Titus did. Like it wasn't even like pro wrestling related. It was like more something like Titus. Titus is very active in his community and stuff like that. So that was like one of the articles that I wrote. I still remember that to this day. And yeah, that's how I got started, man.
So with moving over to Fightful, and that obviously, was it big at this time? Was it the conglomerate it's become today, or has it got bigger, do you reckon?
It was still on the up, and I would say it was known, but it was definitely still in the up and up. Like, and I think also that has to do with like Sean was still making his way on the up and up. And for real, that year, that was like when shit like really really went up. Because I remember, I can't remember what was the story that year. That was when the first time when I remember when I was like, oh, this shit is about to get crazy. Like when I think it was when Becky Lynch broke her nose, and I think Sean was the one who broke the story about her being off of Survivor Series. Yeah. And like when I saw like the reaction to that, I was like, oh, like that's like that, like that. And then I started to see like the wheels turning, and like I remember conversations. If I'm not mistaken, like I even remember conversations about like that was like when he was first thinking about starting the Fight for Select service. I think, and like it was just an idea. Like it wasn't like anything concrete. Like it was just something he was like flowing out there, like thinking about. So it's very cool to see like he actually put that into motion. Of course, the whole team involved like got that put into motion. So that was actually a very cool thing to like think about. Cause like now I'm like really I think that was the like that was like the pinpoint exact thing that I'm thinking about. Like it was that Becky Lynch story that was like really like sort of the thing that got the ball rolling. So yeah, that was cool. But like it was very cool seeing the like thing grow progressively like throughout that 2018 year into 2019 as well.
So eventually you leave Fightful for post wrestling, correct? Or are you still involved with
Yeah,
Fightful? And
yeah.
I've got that wrong.
So I left Fightful in August 2020. I said 2020, August 2019, and no, I left July 2019, and then I started with Post on a trial basis that next month. And I remember at when I first emailed John and Way about working at Post, like they were sort of hesitant because it was just more so it had always been them on that sort of
Yeah,
not news front. I mean, they always had like a network of podcasters, but on the news front, that was a different thing. And like they were, I'm assuming that they weren't really sure about like if it was needed at the time and stuff like that, which I understood. But
yeah,
I remember when he first gave me the opportunity, he was like, "You could do one of the news updates," and I remember I remember I had a chance to do the first one, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to load this thing up as much as possible, like put so much information into it. And I remember I sent them at least 20 some pages worth of like news notes, like I'm talking about transcriptions to like different notes that I found. And this was like within a 1 to 2 day period. Like I sent so much information. And yeah, that like I think it was from that moment where I was like I was in. So
yeah.
so yeah, it just like it literally went from there that I started that's when I like sort of moved off that trial basis, and then like I just became within the fabric of post wrestling,
Post.
man. So yeah, that was cool.
So obviously, going back to leaving Fightful before we
Mm.
get onto Post, is there any sort of regret over leaving Fightful, seeing how big it's become, either since your departure or maybe during your departure?
Nah, man. Like I think everything sort of played out how it was supposed to play out, and you know I don't really have anything to be sort of to complain about or for lack of better terms. Like I think everything is happening as supposed to happen, and I got friends over there. Like I still got close people that I talk to all the time, and
Jeremy
I still chat
Lambert,
with. Yeah, that's my guy, man,
who
and
is, by
I
the
still talk.
way, he is the GOAT as well as your good self, just to answer his Twitter question.
Yeah, shout out to Jeremy, man. That's a good dude, right?
Yeah.
That's one of my guys right there, man. Probably one of the biggest like supporters right there. Like
Yeah.
Jeremy, a good dude, man, real good. And congratulations to him and his significant other as well in their upcoming marriage, man. Very
Yeah,
cool, very
definitely.
cool.
I will
And
shout out Jeremy as well because since I started doing this, he's been the guy that's been like funneling me with interviews, for lack of a better word. He was the one that told me to get in contact with you, by the way.
oh, that's cool. That's cool. So shout out to Jeremy, man. I'm telling you,
Completely
man.
changed the subject there. I do apologize.
No. It's cool. It's not for real. Jeremy's a real good dude, man. Like he cool dude, laid back. He funny as hell too. Like
Yeah.
yeah, the pod we did like I can't even remember how many podcasts we did, but I remember the last one we did like full length was when I think I had him on for this like wrestling rewind podcast that I did with Martin Bushby over at Post Wrestling. I remember it was Martin's birthday week and I needed a co-host. And me, I remember I needed somebody. I was like, and everybody because it was so last minute. Everybody was like tied up, and I remember I had hit up Jeremy. I was like, hey man, you want to watch No Way Out 2003? And he was like, you know what? I do it for you. Fuck it. Like, and then I had this man sit through a Triple H and Scott Steiner match.
Oh
Owe him,
no.
owe him big time for that because
And
that
you're
shit was
still
dreadful.
friends.
But yeah, man, that was
By the
that
way, are
was
you
real
sitting
cool.
near a piano?
Huh?
Are you sitting near a piano?
Uh,
There's like a piano noise that keeps going off every few seconds. It might be my headphones. I do apologize. But if you hear that in the comments, that's what that noise is. I do apologize.
I can't, but if that is, I don't know if it's a piano,
It
but
might be on my end
maybe
then.
it.
I do apologize.
But yeah, man, that was a real cool thing for him for him to do, like help me out last minute right there for that podcast. But going back to your original question, yeah, man, I think everything played out how it was supposed to play out, man, and I don't really have any room to complain about anything, and it's been very cool to see the growth a Fightful and Fightful Select, and I still talk to people over there all the time, man. Like I talk to Sean here and there. I talk to Jeremy damn near, I would say like every week, maybe multiple times a week. We still in contact all the time. Reg and Phil. I think the first time I met Reg, like it's been years now. Like I see that's one of those things I can't pinpoint. Like that was like years ago, and yeah, it's very cool to see that growth as well. And I just met Will for the first time this year. So yeah, it's been cool to like sort of have that sort of introduction or initial conversation with him as well. So yeah, it's been cool to see the growth of everything, man. And I'm having a good time at Post as well. And I'm glad to see the wrestling media space is like growing like overall. So like I think it's cool to see everything sort of, picking up and ramping up.
Why did you leave Fightful, if you're comfortable discussing that?
So first of all, it's not nothing like bad. Like I don't like making sure you get that away, like out the get go. I don't think it was anything negative. It was just more so of like a personal decision for me, more so than anything. And like that's like without getting, like I said, like the super like nuts and bolts of it. Yeah. Like but just to clarify, it wasn't nothing like negative or nothing bad. It was just more so of like a personal decision for me. And I think you can also sort of like just a tad bit of like that sort of burnout that we spoke about, like a little bit. Like I think that's something you could like sort of throw in there, but like again, it wasn't like nothing like negative or nothing like the harp on. It was just more so of a personal decision for me, mixed in with like a little bit of burnout. So yeah, that's why I decided to take that break, because I started writing for like I want to say like a good month, I want to say, and then before I eventually, like I told you before, like that bug eventually get back to you some way somehow. Yeah, that's when I eventually decided to get back into it.
So you spoke about how you joined Post, but out of all of the media companies you worked for, and this is quite a big you've worked for, which ones have been your favorite, and which one is your favorite that you've worked for?
For all of them, I have been like positive experiences. Like I think I can look back on every place that I, like from eWrestling News to the initial when I was doing the feature stuff, like at the like very beginning, to Lords of Pain / Wrestling Headlines to Fightful to Post Wrestling. I think I can look back at every single last one of those experiences and pull something positive out of it. And like, even just learning experiences like from each of those sites. And, even when there was like tough times in terms of like those learning curves, like I can still pull something from those and look at it and be like, oh, you know what, that was that was something that I can like remember. And even from the individuals that own those respective sites, take stuff away from them as well. So like I think when I look back at like, sort of the journey, quote unquote, it's always something I can pull stuff away from that has sort of stuck with me up to this point, that has helped me overall in terms of my writing and just learning how to but yeah, in terms of my writing and learning how to navigate this wrestling media space.
You talked about there being able to pull different things from all the different sites you've worked for. Is that something you would advise any young wrestling writer that wants to write, basically, to get experience with different sites rather than staying in one place consistently?
That I think that's more so of like an individual thing. Like I think if one person, like if they want to explore and they want to try different stuff and like go to different outlets, and I think that's what they should do. And if they want to stay in one outlet, I feel like that's what that specific individual should do. I don't think there's like one clear cut path to actually finding out like what is going to fulfill you. I think a lot of people, they get like I think a lot of people have like they have one specific idea of what success could be. And like it's like a variety of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be like one set path, and like somebody else's path might not always work for you. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a variety of different ways that people can go. Yeah. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like one set thing. But I mean, if people want to try different stuff, I definitely like advise you to, whatever makes you feel fulfilled and whatever you think is best for you. Like I always encourage people to just follow their gut. Like I think that's one thing that's always going to steer you in the right direction, or it might steer you in the wrong direction. But I mean, the only way you're going to find out.
At least you tried.
Like, exactly. There you go. At least you tried. I mean, the only way you really going to find out is if you actually go find out. And if you don't find out, you're just going to wonder what if. And would you rather have that feeling, or would you rather take the risk and seeing if it's going to work out. I think that's up to the individual.
Fair enough. How does Andrew Thompson interviews start?
Ooh, this was started in this was started like when I was when I had took that aforementioned break that I was telling you about. Like
Yeah.
like I remember I had launched a YouTube channel. I had hit up a graphic designer. His name's Oscar. Like he's a hella talented graphic designer. And I remember I hit him up and I sort of gave him an idea for a logo I wanted. And he cooked up like the perfect logo. I couldn't have asked for a better one. And I remember one of the first things I did, I was like, I had got the past the past interviews I had did from that year's Starcast in Las Vegas. And I remember I had took all the stuff and I had make sure I thrown it up on my YouTube channel. And like within that time period, I didn't know how to edit on Adobe Premiere. So I remember I had to teach myself, learn that, and that shit was a struggle because I did not know what I was doing. And it was difficult. Did you teach yourself how to edit too?
Yeah, like for people that don't know, I'm a complete one-man band. I find all my guests, not to talk about myself, I do apologize.
No, you go ahead, man.
I find all my guests myself. I make all the thumbnails myself. I do all the editing myself. It's like I fully get where you're coming from on that. Editing is hard.
Yeah, but and the thing about it is like, I mean, I think people within this space know, but like how time consuming it is.
Oh yeah.
Like you would think, oh, you know, hey, I'm gonna look at this, I'm gonna be done in like an hour, 30 minutes. You look up 2 hours have gone by, and then you gotta render it, you gotta upload it to YouTube, and you gotta make sure to fill in all the gaps, talk about the description of the video, and make sure everything is, you know, the way you want it to be and stuff like that. Like it's a very time consuming thing, and I'm sure you know as a content creator how time consuming that actually is, opposed to like what people may initially think about it, or then like the preconceived notion about it. Like, dude, it really is like one of the most time consuming things that you can do as a content creator. I know you can speak to that for sure.
Definitely. So going back to interviewing then, how you spoke about doing some interviews at a Starcast. So how do they come about if you don't really have, unless I've misunderstood, and if you don't really have a portfolio of interviews you've done in the past?
So what my first time doing in-person interviews, the first interview I ever did like in person was with Jungle Boy at that Starcast.
Oh wow.
And like he was cool as it, and like for real, like I never like I would, like if I ever get the chance to, I would probably, you know, relate this to him. But like he sort of gave me like that confidence to like keep going and like doing more interviews that day, because like I was like, I never did this before, and I don't know how they gonna react and stuff like that. And I was just like, real.
Were you
like,
doing it for a site at the time?
This was when I was still writing at Fightful. Yeah, so
Okay.
This was May 2019, and I was there with Sean in Vegas, so we were like tag teaming the shit, if that makes sense. But the first person I interviewed with was Jungle Boy, and he sort of like gave me, because the interview went so well that like sort of gave me that confidence to like, okay, now I'm gonna just go in here and just try to, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna just try to get whoever I can get. And I remember I interviewed AC Romero. I interviewed Nick Gage, which was hilarious. Like, it's a funny story. Like within that, I'm pretty sure. It was most of a thing. Like he was just being like real cool. It was very unexpected for me to see how like chill and laid back he was, and like it was just a real cool, funny story.
The way you described it in your Spotlight interview was, it was very weird seeing the man behind the character, because
there we go.
You didn't expect that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect it, man. So it was definitely cool to see that. Like you said, them like how you recapped what I said on the Spotlight interview, like seeing the person behind the character and stuff like that. Like, so that was, especially because like those wrestlers who they are very like in character most of the time, or not even in character, that you just don't know them or see much of their personal selves. So like it was very cool to see like that other side and be introduced to that other side. But those interviews that I had done were already posted, but I remember when I created a YouTube channel, I actually took the audio form and hold up. You want to know what? You want to know what? I had skipped over something.
Okay.
So back in 2018 was when I first started doing interviews, but I remember I didn't have any equipment. So all I had to do was like written stuff. So I would like DM the wrestlers. And I remember the first wrestler I interviewed was Wesley from NXT 2.0, but formerly known as Desmond Xavier.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried to interview him through my computer, but I had my headphones and I would like speak to him through that, but the audio was fucking terrible. Like I'm talking about it was shit. Like it was horrible. So this was what he did, and I had tweeted about this I think last year. Like I sent him like we had a full conversation, and I didn't mention that the audio was shit. I remember I later mentioned to him, and I was like I didn't have any equipment, the audio was just fucking terrible. So what I did was I sent him the questions that I asked him, and I wasn't expecting him to like give me like long answers, but this dude like gave me like full length answers. I'm talking about like type this shit out, like full like stuff that like something I could work with. Like, I'm talking about break apart, like and do like like it. I was able to get at least 9-10 quotes from Dez, like from that interview. Like he broke everything down, gave me so much good content, and that helped me so much, dude. Like it really did, and I really appreciated really appreciated what he did for me right there. And yeah, I remember the next person I interviewed Killer Cross through DM, Sammy Guevara through DM, and a couple of other people through Darby Allin, through just Twitter DM, and not everybody was very was as elaborate as Wesley was, but you know what I mean. It's typing opposed to like actually communicating with somebody. It's very easy to like. I don't think a lot of people want to sit there and like type out like these full-length answers.
Do it. I will admit that. Like I will give you props on that because I think I'm dyslexic, so I would struggle with the writing side. So I will give you massive props on that, by the way.
So like I had to like basically work with what I had to work with. And like if people gave you a short answer, then you know what I'm saying, that's what you had to work with. You had to piece something together and make it work and stuff like that. So like so I was doing that for a while, and then the first in-person interview with actual equipment that I did was with that one I mentioned with Jungle Boy. Fast forward back to that break I was telling you about. That's when I started the YouTube channel. I uploaded all the stuff on there, and like that's sort of how I got going from there, man. Like and then I would got me a mic, and that's when I just started taking off from there. Like it was real cool to see. It's like sometimes I'll like go down my YouTube channel and like see like some of the stuff, man, and it's real cool to see that progression, man. Like I'm proud of like to see like the work that I've like accumulated, and like I think my first in person like on camera video interview was with Trisha Dore. It was at an independent show in DC, and I remember I was so fucking nervous, bro. Like I was nervous, like just the on camera aspect, and like I had the mic and stuff like that. I was like, this is about to go fucking awful. I was like, I just know this is about to be the most dog shit interview in the history of interviews. And I remember like after it was like and big shout out to Trish as well. Like I don't know if you're familiar with Trish, but she appeared on AEW a couple of times. She's a great independent wrestler, man. She got signed to Ring of Honor like I must say like 4 or 5 days like before they announced that they was going on hiatus, like which was very shitty. Like she literally got signed to a contract. Well, they formally announced her signing her contract like 4 or 5 days before they announced their hiatus. It was very, very shitty timing. But yeah, she did work with them. And I remember she was just very, very cool, very chill, like gave me a lot of good answers, like sort of guided me a little bit in terms of like the next question. Like she would set stuff up for me, so it was like very easy to like transition. I had my own stuff, but she made it. She just made shit very simple. So I always appreciated her for that. And like that again, like much like the Jungle Boy thing, that gave me the confidence to be like, oh yeah, I can do in-person interviews. And like from there, it was just like like I don't feel those same nerves that I felt in that first one. I just feel like I'm just talking to another individual. I had those good nerves, of course. Like it's like I'm excited, like
Yeah,
type nerves, but like I don't feel like that. Oh, this is going to be so horrible. I just be like, I'm just, let's just do it. Get the camera rolling.
yeah. So, what is your prep like for an interview? And actually, before that, how are you going about getting interviews? Are you sliding into DMs? Do you have like a booking agent?
I damn sure ain't got no booking agent. But like so my prep for interviews, I try to go like as in depth as possible. Like I try to look at other interviews that they do and like try to avoid questions that have already been answered. Like unless there's a way to that I know I can get them to further elaborate on something, then I won't ask. I try to always make sure that I'm asking something that they haven't talked about in depth or they haven't talked about in a really long time or it hasn't been covered at all. So that way I
Yeah,
can just sort of add something new to what I'm presenting. And yeah, it's just as simple as like sliding the DMs and um, emailing people and stuff like that. Like I think that's the only way that I've been able to sort of facilitate the interviews that I have. And like, yeah, but I also think it's easier at like going to conventions and stuff like that, like the Starcast or like going to just any pro wrestling convention. Like I think it's easier to walk up to say a wrestler and be like, hey, I'm such and such from such and such outlet. Would you mind to take the time so I could do this interview? And most of them they cool with it. And sometimes
yeah.
you won't get sometimes you're gonna get rejected. Like some people just really don't feel like doing interviews. So like I think that's like, but not even think that's just how I've gone about going interviews and getting interviews and stuff like that. So that's been like a cool experience as well, like going out there and like sort of hunt down these interviews.
What do you get more? You talked about not getting nervous for things anymore. But what do you get more excited for? Is it the interviews now or is it the writing?
I would I would say still the writing, because the writing is like the core. Like that's like what like what gets me excited the most than anything. So I would say the writing is like the core thing, but I still very much get like sort of equal level excited for the interviews and stuff like that, because more so like it's just the thrill of like, okay, all right, the camera on, let's get it. And I try not to do more than one take. So I just like let's do it. And if it go right, it go right. And if it go wrong, go wrong. Because I used to be like real like self-conscious of like
So did I.
fumbling over words and stuff like that. And so I was just like, fuck it, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
people fumble over words, like shit happens. It is what it is. Like, and most of the time people watching don't give a shit anyway. So it's like, but I think that like, I'm pretty sure, that you can speak to this as well. There's nobody that will be a bigger critic for yourself than you. Like,
100%.
like you will probably be like the person that's most critical of yourself more than anybody could ever be critical of you.
Mm. Yeah, when I'm editing this back tomorrow, I'll be like, damn it, you should have asked him this question, or damn it, shut up and let him speak. You know what I mean? So pivoting onto that, before we do a very fun segment that I call generic questions, I do have a question of like, where can I improve as an interviewer, as someone that does some great interviews like your good self?
For bad. Like so I think with, like I said last time, I think it's more so of like an individualistic thing. And like I'm pretty sure you would know, like even if I was to like, hey, you can do better at this, like I feel like us as content creators, I feel like the thing is we sort of got to find that thing within ourselves, because unless we pinpoint it, we won't actually correct. Like, so I think somebody can tell you something and it's like, oh yeah, maybe I could work on that. But unless you like feel that like within yourself, it's gonna be
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like it, like I think us, like we're like very self-motivating. So like
yeah.
if we feel like we need to fix something, then we just gonna do that shit and we gonna make it work. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But like I think you do a great job of interview. I think I could tell that you prepare your questions and stuff like that, and I like that you do sort of do research. And like I noticed how you talked about the spotlight interview, which was cool. I'm glad to see you went and watched that. So yeah, man, I think you're doing a great job as an interviewer, man. And like I guess the only like improvement or advice I give you, man, is just believe in yourself. I guess like I know that's some
Yeah.
generic ass shit, but like if you don't, bro, if you don't believe in yourself, like ain't nobody else gonna believe in
No,
you. So
I always get curious to know when I have other interviewers on, like, where can I
mm-hmm.
improve? But I do appreciate that, man. So, as I said, because we've been going nearly an hour, my friend. Believe it
For
or
real?
not. Yeah, believe it or not.
Damn, I didn't even notice that. I really didn't.
So we're going to wrap this up soon, but we're going to do a very quick segment that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before will know this, where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay-per-view, favorite superstar or wrestler, favorite tag team, and favorite theme song of all time. Basically questions that I'm sure Andrew gets asked on social media quite regularly. So now he'll have a place to be like, look, guys, I've answered this. Please go watch this. So what's your favorite wrestling match of all time?
My favorite wrestling match, but first of all, just to go back to your point, I don't think I've like. I mean, I've been asked this stuff, but like I don't think I get asked. I don't think nobody gives a shit about like
no. But my thing is, like, I'm sure like people do get asked them quite regularly.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it's nice for people to have a place to be like, look, I've answered all these. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Like that is a great idea. So my favorite match. Oh man. Okay, so can I say two for two different reasons?
Yeah.
Okay, so my first favorite match for sentimental value is Kofi Kingston versus Bryan Danielson, WrestleMania 35.
Kofi Mania, baby.
Yeah. That was bar none one of the coolest moments for me as a wrestler fan to see Kofi be the second Black WWE champion in history. That was
he only the second one?
Yeah, at the time it was him.
Wow.
It was The Rock and Kofi, then Lashley, then Big E.
That's surprising, but very cool.
Yeah, second Black WWE champion, man. It was very cool to see that, and like just to see the crowd reaction he got. Bro, above all like the title win and the build up to Kofi mainly and all that stuff, I would say probably the coolest thing was like seeing him like with his kids and stuff like that in the ring, like seeing that image of this Black man with his children and his wife in the crowd and stuff, like, you know what I'm saying? It was just a cool moment. And like so like now I'm getting all these different matches in my head. See, do you see what you did, Tom? Like I'm getting all these different matches in my head that like that's coming to my brain. Like one of my other favorites is Kenny Omega versus Tomohiro Ishii back in 2017 at the G1 special in San Francisco. The shit was a banger, like a banger. And another one of my favorites, it was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kota Ibushi at Power Struggle 2017. That was fucking great. I love that. Like I would still go back and watch that every once in a while. Another match that I really, really am a big fan of is Tom, you see what you did, Tom. You get the ball rolling in my head. Like it was this one match I seen in Dragon Gate. This had to be like several years ago. Matter of fact, this had to be during the pandemic, and I was going back and like I'm talking about early pandemic. Like this I was going back and like watching because we was all in the fucking house anyway. So I was like going back and watching like some old stuff and some stuff I really hadn't seen. So I remember I started watching some Dragon Gate, and I had saw Pac, AEW's Pac. I think he was going against Ben K for the Open the Brave championship.
Was this during his reign where he didn't drop the belt for like 2 years?
This was during his this was post WWE.
Yeah, but pre AEW.
Yeah, pre AEW. Yep. Was that pre? Yeah, pre AEW. Yep, you're right. I think that's a good call, Tom. Look at that. That's a good call.
Autism strikes again.
But this was this was pre AEW. Yeah, you're right. That was pre AEW.
I think.
Yeah, but besides the point, anyway. Like that was a real fun match that I remember that sort of stick to my brain. And it like going back to what I was talking about, like how the Kofi match for like sentimental value, I would say like work rate wise, probably one that always comes to my head, man. That is like one of the craziest matches that I'd probably say I've ever been like. Other than Kofi, that I've been like that emotionally invested in was Gargano versus Almas at TakeOver Philly for 2018, and I think the reason is because I saw like the entire build to that match. I'm talking about from Gargano getting turned on the Ciampa to him coming back to NXT, to him going on that big ass losing streak, and then him finally getting a win, and then he got another win and another win and another win, and then he got into the championship contention, and then. Like I saw that whole build, and then I was already invested. And then when they put on that match, that was like one of the best matches that I've ever seen to date.
The most underrated NXT takeover match, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was. I still think in terms of like that NXT black and gold period, in terms of like the best match, I always think that Sasha Banks versus Bayley is the best one that they ever presented because of the impact that had.
Yeah.
And like I don't think that WWE will ever actually come out and say it, because I mean, you as a business, I don't think it will be smart to actually say it, because you're sort of discrediting every single woman who laid the groundwork before Sasha and Bayley. But dog, they changed the game in terms of like how like I would say they changed the course of how WWE sort of presented their female talent. They really did.
Definitely.
Like right after that, that's when that Give These a Chance hashtag started. And I think that spawned because of what Sasha and Bayley did at Takeover. People was like, what the like, you know what I'm saying? They went out there and bodied that match. So like I think that was when people was like, dude, like let's, you know what I'm saying? Like let's get the ball rolling. You got so many people who, but I also think we as the public know the impact that they have, and I'm talking about from WWE's perspective. I don't think they'll ever come out and be like, oh, you know, they laid the groundwork, because I mean,
I think under Triple H they might. I think there's a bigger chance of that happening under Triple H than Vince.
That's actually a really good point that you just said. But yeah, I don't want to stick on that thing too long. I'm talking about like, I know you got other questions you want to ask in terms of like the segment, but yeah, those matches that I listed, man, and so many others, that come to my mind are just that have been great matches to watch over the past however many years.
Favorite pay-per-view of all time, and I'm going to give you the floor for 5 minutes on this.
Okay. Favorite pay-per-view. Jeez, like this, like from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Damn.
I prepped you on these questions.
Yeah, man. From top to bottom. That's, oh my goodness. Like, because I'm thinking about stuff from like my childhood. Then I'm thinking about stuff that I like recently. You know what? I'm gonna just go with one from my childhood just to make it easy. Like, I'm gonna be up here thinking we gonna be on another damn hour, like trying to think about like all this, all this.
You wait till you hear the question that I end all my answers on, my friend.
Oh goodness, man! But I'm gonna go with. Go Royal Rumble. I'm gonna go WrestleMania just for childhood value, like in terms of like stuff that I like that's like ingrained in my childhood stuff. I'm gonna say WrestleMania 19.
Oh, the most underrated Mania, in my opinion.
There we go. We be back.
Yeah. Sorry, internet issues. So Mania 19 is your favorite pay-per-view, yeah?
Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Let's go Mania 19. Let's go with that.
Favorite tag team of all time.
Favorite tag team of all time? You know what, bro? I'm gonna go my favorite tag team of all time. Cause you want to think about these questions, like I'm gonna answer it right, and then like probably as soon as we get off this call, I'm be like, you know what, bro? I should have said.
Will I get a DM being like, damn it, I should have said this.
My favorite tag team of all time. I'm gonna go with. Matter of fact, just to save myself in trouble today, I'm gonna list. I'm gonna list a couple just to save myself. Yeah, there we go. See, you're a good guy, Tom. You get me. See, there we go. So I'm gonna go. World's Greatest Tag Team: Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas.
The most underrated tag team, in my opinion.
Man,
they're very,
very short-lived. By the way, very short-lived in terms of like. I know they did some stuff together in like Ring of Honor and shit like that, but like Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, and silly Shelton Benjamin, man. Like I'm like, honestly, bro, there's a part of me like as a viewer that's like very disappointed that he didn't get that world title run. in
Oh yeah.
WWE. Like when he was in this, but he had everything that you could literally ask for in a wrestler. Like and people always be like, oh, well, the mic thing, bro. How many world champions have you seen that have not been the most charismatic
Charismatic
on the
on the mic.
microphone,
Yeah.
bro? That have had these great world title runs, and like they've had people speak for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like that excuse get on my damn dude. Like Shelton Benjamin could have been like, and I mean, he get his flowers. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to see it. Like people definitely recognize what he's contributing and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
that's cool. But going back to I'm gonna say Motor City Machine Guns. Always been a big Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin supporter. I always liked them as a duo. Um, I really did like the like I told you, I didn't get into wrestling outside of the US until like 2016 or getting into like independent stuff heavy into like 2016, 2017. But like once I did, I started going back and like watching like all the old stuff. And like I really did enjoy uh, Alex Shelley and Kachida. I like it's cool to see them sort of doing stuff now in Impact. Like they
Yeah.
sort of back together now with Chris Sabin, so that's cool. And I did like Balor and Taguchi. Balor and Taguchi, that was a funny ass team. I'm trying to think of like some other tag teams out there that from like the past that I really enjoy, but like just like those off the top, like just like the mix it in. Like those are some tag teams that I like really enjoy. Oh yeah, like I haven't like I can't like so like I must say like over the past year, especially like during the like I mentioned like during the pandemic, like I was going back and watching so many. Well, we still in the fucking pandemic, but like going back and like watching some different stuff like early on in the pandemic. I
Yeah.
was like one of the things I had went back and checked out was like some old All Japan stuff because I would see it on Twitter, so I would like go back and watch that shit, and I would see like fucking like Stan Hansen and like um Terry Gordy like just beating the shit out of these dudes in Japan, like going at it with Kawada and all these different guys. Like I would see this stuff on Twitter and I would just be like, let me go watch this. And it was like some of the craziest shit I ever seen, like especially with like some of the crowd reaction you would get and then finding out Stan Hansen is like, I think he's like legally blind in like one of
Yeah,
his
he
eyes.
is.
Shit like
He
that.
is, yeah.
Shit is fucking crazy. Like that make a lot of sense to see like the lyrics he was doing. He's damn near taking folks' head off. So yeah, that was some cool stuff. But like I would like see all that stuff on Twitter and I just be like, let me go watch that. I ain't doing shit anyway. So yeah, man, those like some of my favorite tag teams. I know that was like a long-winded answer, but like, yeah, okay, be good to know. I'm promise I'm gonna breeze through these next ones. I'm gonna breeze through the next one.
Favorite theme song of all time.
See what you
He
doing,
said
Tom?
he's
Why you
gonna
doing this,
breathe.
Tom? Why? So my favorite theme song of all time. What are some great themes? But there's so many great theme songs.
I know.
Like there are like some great theme songs, bro. Uh, Probably my favorite. My favorite theme song is it's that one that The Rock had in 2002, but it wasn't the slow beat one. It was like I can't remember how but I know it had the usual like if you smell when you come in, but it had like it was like sped up and like he used it he used it at the Royal Rumble 2002 versus
Oh, I'm drawing a
Jericho.
blank. I know what you're on
Yeah,
about, but I
yeah,
can't think
you
what
know what
it's
I'm
called.
talking. He used the same one when he beat racist Terry. I mean when he faced racist Terry at WrestleMania
Yes.
18. um, yeah, but it was that thing. So that's probably one of my favorite theme songs that comes
That's
to mind.
gonna
Like
bug
I'm
me. I'll find it
yeah.
later and I'll send it to you.
You know what I'm talking about though. It's not the slow one. It's the one that's like more fast
It's
paced.
not his cooking, is it?
It pro- all the theme songs. All the theme songs. Oh, you know what? So you know what? I'm gonna switch that. One of my favorite theme songs is the Hollywood version
Yeah.
of this. Yeah, that's my favorite one. The Hollywood version of that one. You know what I'm talking about. There we go.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, who is your favorite wrestler or superstar of all time?
My favorite wrestler of all time. Bro, that's oh my goodness. My favorite wrestler of all time.
And this one,
Bro,
you can't have more than one answer.
Oh my goodness. My favorite. Bro, I don't even know, bro. Like I mean, I've had favorite like people that I've like whose work I've enjoyed a lot. But like I don't know if I like ever had like a concrete like favorite wrestler ever. Like if there was a wrestler that I had to pinpoint that I would say I have always enjoyed from start to finish, they have always impressed me as a wrestler. And like I've always been like interested in them as a character. And like I've like always enjoyed them. And like even today to present day, cause like it's like that sort of conversation, it also it's hard for me to like not blend in how they are as individuals outside of the wrestling room. I'm talking about like in terms of like their beliefs and shit like that. So like it's especially today, it's
Do
hard
you
for me to like
struggle to
separate.
celebrate the person from the
Oh
art?
yeah,
From the
I
art,
can't do
sorry,
it.
I meant to say.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I
Okay.
can't like because like when once I see that you believe in certain stuff, when you have a certain way of thinking, and it's like not even just having people having different beliefs. When I just see you just like believing in like just dumb shit, like you just have a certain belief about certain stuff. Like it's just like that's I can't separate you from your art. Like I just can't. Like it's impossible.
Fair enough.
But for me personally, not for everybody, but for me personally. But like if I had to name one wrestler, bro, who I always like was like always interested in, and I can't say it's my favorite wrestler of all time, but like I'm just thinking of somebody who like I've always been interested in. I'm talking about from the start. I would have to say it's RVD.
Fair enough.
I would have to say RVD. Like if I had to pinpoint one wrestler, bro, like from start of my fandom to like I've always been interested in, and even going back and seeing some of his stuff in ECW, which I missed because I was like fucking 2 years old.
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I would say RVD, bro.
Fair
RVD.
enough. And then as we wrap this up, Andrew, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with writing in your case, and with social media in general. We're all sort of going to live forever in this crazy world in some ways. So what is one piece of content from your good self that you want the good people to remember you by? And then what is one that you're like, if you could avoid that, I would appreciate it.
I would want people to remember. You want to know what, bro? I would want people to remember my news updates for post wrestling. I love doing those. Like I like truly love doing those, bro. Like I love filling those with like so much information. Like I get like a thrill off of that shit. Like I like love like just filling that article stuff up and like having like all these different information and news pieces and stuff like that. And even the stuff that isn't transcript, I just like having a bunch of stuff in there. Like I love doing that for posts. I really do. Like I genuinely love doing that for posts, bro. So like I would say like that's probably one of my things that I would want people to remember me by the most. And if I had to choose something that I don't want people to remember me by in wrestling media, those early articles that I wrote, news articles that I wrote for for e-wrestling news, and I would just like lift the shit out of other people's quotes without no credit.
Yeah.
But see the thing is, Tom, you gotta go deep in the archives to go find those.
Oh,
so if you
really?
got the time on your if you got the time on your hands, then you go that's on you. But like you would have to go deep in the archives to go find those. But like like regardless of like whether like I enjoyed it or not, I'm still like proud of it overall. So yeah.
Fair enough. So as we wrap this up, where can the good people find you and all your content?
They can check me out on AD Thompson __ on Twitter, and same thing on Instagram. YouTube, Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. They can check out my written work over at Post Wrestling, man, to check out all the great content that we do over there, myself and John Pollock, and also Neil Flanagan, who helps out with the news as well. Everybody's doing some great stuff over there, and a crazy amount of content podcast wise over at Post, man. So definitely go check that out. And the Patreon stuff as well. Like it's a lot of great work that a lot of different people doing that make that site what it is, and I'm glad to be a part of that. And that's pretty much all the content I got. But one thing I do want to say, Tom, I am interested in like starting to try to interview athletes outside of pro wrestling. So like that's something I'm trying to do. I have sent a few emails and a few DMs to some former NBA players that I'm trying to get on the channel and stuff like that. So hopefully those come to fruition. I know they are very, very busy individuals, but all I need is one time to get my foot in the door. That's all I need, man. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully that becomes.
I hope so too for you. So as we wrap this up, obviously I want to say thank you to Andrew for coming on. If you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Trash. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Trash. Follow bodyslam.net wherever you get your podcast, and on Twitter and on YouTube for my show with Cassidy Haynes, The Wrestle Watch Pod, and follow The Wrestle Watch Pod on Twitter to help us pick the match that we're going to watch every week. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.